areas that are close to water. Well, there are very few for the film industry. So we're going to go from a port to an airport now. Director General of the area in which he works. So he has offered a lot of talks over the years on airports. El Prat Airport, he's going to be talking to us about. Let's give him a big round of applause. SERGI ALEGRE.
Buenos días a todos y a todas. Antes de dar las gracias que quiero dar a quien creo que se las tengo que dar.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I would like to congratulate you all because, the speeches that we are giving in this surrounding is something that is priceless, because I'm working in Brussels and I've been working there for about 8 years, and you look across the window and it's raining. But right now, we're just giving these speeches and it's warm, and I gave a picture, sent a picture to my colleagues in Brussels. I said, today you will not get paid. It's a pleasure to be here again with all of you. Thank you very much to the Fundación, to the foundation, especially Diego, because he took the decision to do this, but then you have to do it, and as you well know, the people from the financial department know how difficult it is, and thanks to the foundation Moeve, because it's the backbone that is funding, and since about 5 years I'm a member of the Councillor Committee of the association. Let me tell you that they take a lot of care and they pay a lot of attention to the city. I mean, there's no single meeting where we do not speak something about Tenerife. I mean, the province, the island, or the city, Santa Cruz. So I think that you have great support. I'm here, and I will try to cover this in 20 minutes, or even shorter, if possible. So, as I think that Quevedo or another writer saw, that if you keep it short, is priceless. So, as a general director of Eco-Regions Council, as the moderators say, because I had the honor and the pleasure of being the deputy mayor and assuming during 27 years responsibility at El Prat. So since the year 79, I mean, this is, I'm not just doing adverts on my city, but it's the only city that since the year 79 is ongoing, being governed by Iniciativa per Catalunya. Now there are several parties in coalition, but that is the only party, which is a progressive parties, are the ones that have won, and it's clearly because the citizens, 75,000 people, consider that we didn't do a bad job. That's the other side of the coin. I mean, people normally vote for the one that is less worse. And so we want to be a little bit humble, but I think that we have done a good job. Let me just, I'm going to move quite a lot. I was a politician, and during 5 years, I was a lecturer at the university. I would just love to have the whiteboard over here, or the blackboard here. So this is the metropolitan area from 7.5 million people that live in Catalonia. 5 million live at the end of the Ramblas. I imagine that that is about 30 kilometers. There are about 5 million people. That is probably the 10th European country in densities. And the Prat de Llobregat, let me see if I point it right. Sorry, is here, what I'm showing right now. Right, the ones that love football or soccer, when you said El Español is a place at El Cornellà del Prat, where the municipalities cross through, a diagonal in that that soccer field. So that is something that was agreed in a cafeteria between people working at the town hall, myself, the president of the Espanyol football team, and one of the councillors at the town hall. And, being very friendly, we could sort out some of the problems. So, El Prat del Llobregat, this is the river that we have here, which is the longest river that exists in Catalonia, that crosses Catalonia, not other regions of Spain, and Prat means the prayer in Catalan. This is the picture of the municipality. I think there is a corner missing there, but it's from the year 2000. The picture, I mean. This is the corner at the harbor, this is the river, and this is the airport. And this was the city that we had by that time. And we suffered a lot of pressure and had many proposals coming from all general directorates of roads, the coastline, and so on, just to carry out things in this remaining space next to Barcelona. Therefore, our priority was, first of all, to make the proper urban planning of the territory and then develop the city, which is how I contributed somehow to this project and the reason why I'm here today. And this is what we planned. All public works depending on public ministry and through an agreement of all the stakeholders, I mean the council, the ministries, and other stakeholders, where all the decisions, and that's the key factor, had to be taken unanimously. That meant that, we had to move across of the river, move in order to have a broader port. We needed to add another terminal, more space here at the airport. And then we have advantage, Javier. We had to also place all the, trains, and this is the AVE, which is the fast train. We had to bury all the train tracks in order to use that space, and we had to bury that the tracks of the high-speed train lines in order to use that space. And apart from what I mentioned before, diverting the river and burying the line, we also had the underground that connects Barcelona with the airport and back. Was one of the conditions that we had to fulfill. Apart from adding that landing strip that I mentioned before, and then we had also had a sewage plant. I mean, about 3 million people, were living there, so we needed a water treatment plant over there, and we had a black flag at the beach, and after 3 years we could allow people bathing there, and then we have a desalination plant over there too. This was something that was already considered. I mean, burying the high-speed train lines was long considered, because we thought that the city had to grow this way. It was the only possibility. It was not a very complicated decision. So what we had 2 massive industrial areas as big as the oil refining plant from Noeve, that were created in the 20s of the past century, one for paper, another one for textile industry, because we had water, we had the river there, so all the damp beers that you drink, we use the water of El Prat de Llobregat. They normally take, the manufacturing plant is over here, the bottling plant is over there, and they use the water, the river water, sorry. I hope that from the end you can distinguish what I'm pointing right now. That is the train line, or what I'm signaling right now is the new growing area. When I'm talking about manufacturing plants, I'm talking about some thousand workers. They had the football team. I mean, they had almost everything, really massive manufacturing plants. So let me just add another comment whereby the Foundation MOVE does not need note of it. The reason that MOVE is willing to participate in the development of what will happen here together hand in hand with the council and with following administration, it's not normal, not because I'm a member of the advisory board, but normally they sell the idea to a developer that know how to make business, and that's it. Right? You stay with the developer. You do not stay with the owner or the industrial owner of that land that is willing, for several reasons, for the historical responsibility and bond with this city, wants to participate as a legacy for the future citizens, the present and future citizens of this city. I mean, the easiest way is just to sell it to the developer and go. So, the first thing that we did with that territory, which is a key factor and is a responsibility of the public administration and only of the public administration, specifically of the council that is governing, has the mandate during that time, has the democratic responsibility. We have the mayors, deputy mayors, councillors that have spoke with the citizens, and considering some ideas, they trusted them and voted for them. You have to talk directly to the citizens in a clear way, instead of cheating people and telling them something which will not happen. And I think it was mentioned quite a few times, you have to have the courage to do things. And apart from what I've produced some film products or audiovisual products, but in this specific case, people go, for instance, to Paris. They just go, oh, how beautiful, Pompidou, the city center. Say, okay, but the person in charge, the councillor in charge, had decided in the year 68, let's go with an architect that is willing to sell his project or his plan, with colorful and so and so, in the center of the old Paris. Go ahead, build it. Or if you talk about cinema, the producer, when he gets the first Matrix script writing, and say, okay, let's invest $40 million. This has a lot of future. So these visionaries have are very valuable, and we shall acknowledge the courage that they have. Well, you have to take the decisions, and you have to do it bien blunt. So here we have the general guidelines, just a few ones. You cannot place 25, because otherwise it would be just something different, but not general guidelines. So it had to be, we have a place for all kinds of citizens. And I come from that background, even for the wealthy, because otherwise you do not mix all types of citizens. Otherwise it would be something different. We had to have a continuity with the rest of the city, and I imagine that, the train lines, but we still have the motorway with 4 lanes, which is the main entrance to Barcelona. How many cities has isolated neighborhood or districts, and it had to have also public services for the neighborhoods and for the whole city. You need to think outside the box and not think that people are going to go to the city center. The people that live in the city center and other neighbors have to move around. Otherwise, it's that neighborhood in that corner, and people from that neighborhood come to visit the city center, or people where they have some educational or cultural facilities which are consolidated. It had to be sustainable across the whole development and in each individual project. It doesn't make a point if you have a sustainable building if the remaining elements are not sustainable at all. And then we can talk about the sustainability degree that you need to reach. And the fifth general guideline, it had to have public transport, pedestrian areas, and maximizing the cycling, which does not mean that you condemn the vehicle, the cars, because they don't move by themselves. That's a discussion that is linked to my political party. I'm talking about people using vehicles because the vehicles do not drive by its own, or except for some pilots, most of the people that like piloting a car, most of the people use the car because they have no other solution. It's the most expensive transport solution that we have today. Is a very useless and expensive thing that we have right now worldwide, but it is generalized. Is not that we are all stupid. It's because we need it, right? This is what I mentioned at the very beginning, is the proposal to plan the new growth area. This is all the forcing growth, the train lanes. You see how it goes to cover the motorway. And what we want to do is an inverted pyramid, or no, the other way, a pyramid. If we force everybody to have a car park, and then or a parking place in that case, if people park somewhere else, then we would just cover this motorway. That was one of the biggest discussion, because El Prat in this side it's very steep, and you cannot imagine you cannot imagine how much money we have invested, so we do not suffer what we have suffered in other places. We didn't want to suffer floods, so we will have a 3% inclination road. So we're going to take all these people to Barcelona, and we told them, okay, you were driving through, a road that had only 4% inclination. So back to the underground car park that I mentioned before. It was the way to get more surface. The density also, but dense. We cannot allow ourselves to have something very dense. And we're talking about speculative plots, depending on how you limit the benefits that you get. But in Europe, we have to limit that capital gain, especially in those urban areas, like the ones we're speaking about, like Barcelona. I'm not against the typical dwelling construction. We're talking about, how a place that is just 4 kilometers away from Barcelona. I wouldn't want to have terraced houses any longer. So we had a tender, and people had to. Oh, I have 2 minutes left. Oh my God. Okay, so we made an international tender, just 3 Spanish groups and 2 foreign groups, and this was the winning proposal, the inspiring proposal in that international competition, which was to have a big space. We wanted to call it Central Park, but have a big park in the middle, which was like a linking hub or a connection point. And so here you have the data. I presume that Diego will share, at least with my permission, the presentation in some web or drive. But the most important thing in my case is 50% of the dwellings would have to be constructed with some sort of protection, minimum 50%. But some recommendations, which is the most important thing, are the lessons learned. We're talking about operations that are extremely long, or extremely lengthy process. The taxi driver thought that the project that in the in the refinery plant will take more than 50 years to crystallize, and the taxi driver said, they take about 20 years to reach an agreement, and they start, they start with the works, and then they find a problem, stop the works, and stay, and all the construction site is stopped. So you need people to fall in love with your projects. I mean, this is not something that will not only be done by Santa Cruz de Tenerife as a city. You have to maximum social and political consensus, internal and external, with coordination, through consultation processes and through genuine participation. The consultation process and participation, you need to have clear and feasible stages from all points of view in order to plan that. But you probably will not do it in 5 or 10 years. You need to properly plan it in stages which are feasible, organically. I mean, that they might work without having everything done, because there will be many economical crises along the way. Maybe the developer will change, the political party at the council will change. So you cannot plan in the long term while developing feasible stages which are environmentally, economically feasible from day one. Otherwise, they will not work. So back to the consensus, the maximum consensus with private sector involvement. The people that just want to earn money. And if we do not agree, it will not work. Just like the public administration. If the public administration is not willing to cooperate, this will not work. You have to get to know which are your goals, your limits. Otherwise, this will not crystallize. Otherwise, you will keep on doing surveys and studies. Deliver maximum information at all levels, with all the pros and cons. You will always find them. There are people that lose or people that do not win. And those are part of the city too, and of the ecosystem, the stakeholder ecosystem. This is like a football match. You need to think how to resist. Some of them are legal. You need to accept them. You need to treat them, but you need to accept them. And to have the highest professional level in all the stages, and the maximum involvement of in-house teams working with the external partners, the reports that need to be approved by whoever, that will be done by the technicians that are working at the council. The consultants, the external consultants, will not prepare those reports. The ones that will speak every day, at the restaurant, the taxi drivers, with the technicians at the town hall, and they need to share that proposal, and they need to participate in their proposals. Otherwise, they would just directly refuse the project, which is normal. You need to include people, and you need to overcome that refusal, because people know who the developers are, what do people want, because they experience it every day with their own ideas, their own perspective, but that deep knowledge shall not be lost. And that was it.